Has Keychron come up with a keyboard that has all of the best features and functionality of their brand, but without the high-profile, boxy configuration that they're known for? Let's find out. So today I'm going to be checking out the Keychron C1 keyboard. It's a new release from Keychron. It is in the form that I got it, a $55 keyboard, and so we'll be checking it out and seeing how it works. So let's go ahead and open it up. So we'll see what comes in the box. The standard information bits about it and a little mini user guide. USB-C cable, some extra keycaps. This is so you can switch between Windows and Mac. A key puller. And let's get our first look at the keyboard itself. So I got the C1, which is the 10 keyless version, and I like that because it's a little bit more compact on my desk. I got it with the brown switches, so we'll give that a quick listen. My initial feeling is that it's got some nice feel to it. It's not too clicky, but it gives a little bit of a sound, which I appreciate. It's got legs here with multiple positions, so you can put it at whatever angle that you want. It feels to me like it's a little bit lower than Keychron keyboards typically are. Typically, Keychron keyboards I've had some issues with in the past because they're raised up a little bit, but this seems a little bit more natural in the position that it's in, and particularly this front edge doesn't seem to be as high. We'll have to look at the specs and see if that is correct or not, but that's certainly how it seems at first blush. So when I put the Keychron C1 right next to my Durgod Taurus keyboard, and this is the main keyboard that I use every day on my primary desktop, so I've gotten very comfortable with it and I really like it. If I look at them side by side, the height is almost exactly the same when you have the legs down. So it's very clearly for Keychron a change in that it has gone with a much lower front edge as compared to some of their other versions. And in a moment, we'll take a look at another Keychron keyboard so you can see the comparison between those two. But if we look at these, they're very similar in height. They're very similar in width, as you can see here. They are, from a weight perspective, the Durgod Taurus is considerably heavier, but the Keychron C1 certainly feels to be a very sturdy build. There's no flex to it. It's hard plastic all the way around. The keys have a nice feel to them. They are not PBT keycaps. The Durgod Taurus does have the PBT keycaps, but they are also it's also a little bit more expensive keyboard as well. Let's go ahead and take a look at this against another Keychron keyboard so you can see the difference in height. So if we compare the Keychron C1 to the Keychron K4 that I've had for a while, you can see that there are some significant differences, and certainly there is a difference in this front edge profile. It is much lower, and you can see quite clearly when you look at it from the end that the new C1 has an angle built into the keyboard itself, even without the legs put out, whereas the K4 is very boxy and flat. And so you can see that immediately when you're using it without any legs involved. You can see that this is sort of a normal feeling angle to the keyboard from front to back, whereas the K4 is completely flat and much higher here at the front. In fact, you can see, if we put them side by side, that there is a considerable thickness difference here at the front, and that makes a big difference in the comfort level, because with the C1 I can type with my hands resting on the desk, whereas on the K4 I really need to be up higher. And for me, I actually prefer to type with my hands on the desk, although I know technically you're supposed to according to the experts, type with your hands up in the air. So clearly a difference there. When you extend the legs, that will give the C4 more, the K4 more of an angle, and the C1 still won't be quite as high at the back, even with the legs fully extended. So a very substantial difference. I think at first blush, I'm probably going to enjoy the C1 more than the K4 here. And I should note that the K4 is customized with a bunch of different keycaps from different sets. So this is not the layout that this would normally have, whereas the C1, these are the original keys that Keychron provided. One thing I should note is that the C1 is a wired-only keyboard, so it doesn't have the wireless option that most of the Keychrons have. And the other difference here is that the USB-C port is in the back, on the back left as I'm facing the keyboard. So that's going to work fine for my use for the system, but it is something to keep in mind that if you're looking for wireless, the C1 is not your choice. I should also note that this comes preset with Mac keycaps, so I will be swapping those out since I'll be using it with a Windows computer. So the C1 has the Keychron brown switches. They are hot swappable, and they do come out nice and easily with the included key puller. So we'll just finish making these key changes to switch it over to the Windows layout. Just get those keys put in. Just line it up correctly. There we go. The last one in. And then all we need to do is just here on the back, we've got a switch between the Mac keyboard layout and the Windows. So we'll slide that over to the Windows mode and we can get it all hooked up. So let's go ahead and test out the keyboard now that it's hooked up to my computer. You can see that I got the white backlit version, so it is not the RGB version, but that's fine by me. Just a little bit of backlight is enough so that I can see it if it's in low light, but I don't need all the fancy effects. I'm looking for more of a functional keyboard. So let's take a listen and see what it sounds like. So that gives you a feeling for it. I can say that it's very comfortable to type on. The spacing is pretty standard and feels nice. The angle, as we talked about earlier, is very comfortable. The keycaps are comfortable. They don't have the texture of a PBT keycap, but they are still quite comfortable to use. The backlighting looks good and even. There don't seem to be any keys that are highlighted more than others, and the brown keys have both a good tactile feel as well as, I think, a nice, pleasant but not overly clicky sound. So that should give you some idea of what the Keychron C1 is like to use. So my initial impression of the Keychron C1 is very favorable. It seems to have a good build quality. It is comfortably sized. It is comfortable to type on. The feedback from the Keychron brown switches it's very pleasant. The sound is very pleasant. The keycaps work nicely. And overall, I am pleased with where it is. So thanks for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video.